Clinical chemistry, tumor markers. Suppose you are given a patient with weight loss, abdominal pain, imaging findings, and a table of tumor marker results during an examination. How do you determine the most likely diagnosis, interpret the laboratory findings, and answer the questions correctly? That is exactly what we'll cover in this lesson. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to define tumor markers, interpret common tumor marker results, identify the major cancers associated with each marker, understand their clinical uses and limitations, and confidently answer examination-style questions. Let's begin with a clinical case. A 64-year-old man presents with progressive weight loss, upper abdominal pain, and yellow discoloration of the eyes and skin. Imaging demonstrates a mass in the head of the pancreas together with multiple lesions in the liver. You are also provided with laboratory results for several tumor markers. As you examine the results on your screen, notice that the concentration of CA19-9 is markedly elevated. Carcinoembryonic antigen is also above the reference range, while alpha-fetoprotein remains normal. Another marker shows only a mild increase. These findings, together with the patient's symptoms and imaging, point toward a specific diagnosis. Now let's answer the questions step by step. The first question asks for the most likely primary tumor and the reasons for your answer. The most likely diagnosis is pancreatic adenocarcinoma arising from the head of the pancreas with spread to the liver. Why is this the most likely diagnosis? First, the patient's symptoms are highly suggestive of pancreatic cancer. Progressive weight loss, epigastric pain, and obstructive jaundice are classic features, particularly when the tumor is located in the head of the pancreas. Second, imaging demonstrates a pancreatic mass with liver lesions indicating metastatic disease. Third, as you can see from the laboratory results, CA19-9 is markedly elevated. This marker is the one most strongly associated with pancreatic and biliary tract cancers. Carcinoembryonic antigen is also elevated, but remember that it is much less specific. It may increase in several gastrointestinal malignancies, and therefore supports the diagnosis without confirming it. You will also notice that alpha-fetoprotein remains within the normal reference range. This makes primary hepatocellular carcinoma much less likely despite the presence of liver lesions. Another tumor marker is only mildly elevated. This finding is nonspecific and may simply reflect irritation of surrounding tissues rather than indicating a different primary tumor. Taken together, the patient's symptoms, imaging findings, and tumor marker profile strongly support pancreatic adenocarcinoma with hepatic metastases. The next question asks why CA19-9 can be falsely elevated in this patient. This is a very important examination point. CA19-9 is normally excreted through bile. When a patient develops obstructive jaundice or cholestasis, bile flow is reduced, causing this marker to accumulate in the bloodstream, even when tumor burden has not increased. Therefore, the degree of elevation does not always reflect the size or extent of the cancer. There is another important limitation. Approximately 5 to 10% of people lack the Lewis blood group antigen required to produce CA19-9. These individuals may have pancreatic cancer, but still produce very low or undetectable levels of the marker. For this reason, CA19-9 is generally used to monitor treatment response and disease progression, rather than to screen healthy individuals. Now pause for a moment and test your understanding. Suppose a patient has a markedly elevated CA19-9 level, but no convincing imaging evidence of pancreatic cancer. Would the tumor marker alone be sufficient to make the diagnosis? Pause the video and think about your answer before continuing. The correct answer is no. Tumor markers should never be interpreted in isolation. They must always be considered alongside the patient's clinical presentation, imaging findings, and when necessary, histological confirmation. Let's move on to another important examination question. What is a tumor marker? Pause the video if you would like to answer before we continue. A tumor marker is a substance, usually a protein, hormone, or antigen, that is produced either by tumor cells themselves or by the body in response to a tumor. These substances can be measured in blood or other body fluids, and their concentration often reflects the presence or amount of tumor tissue. What are the appropriate clinical uses of tumor markers? Their most important role is monitoring response to treatment. If marker concentrations fall after therapy, this usually indicates that treatment has been effective. Tumor markers are also useful for detecting recurrence after successful treatment. In addition, they help support diagnosis and staging when cancer is already suspected based on clinical findings or imaging. Some markers also provide valuable prognostic information by indicating the likely behavior of the tumor. Only a small number of tumor markers have any role in screening, and even then, this is usually limited to carefully selected high-risk populations rather than the general public. Now let's test your knowledge of the major tumor markers. Pause the video and try matching each marker with its principal associated malignancy. Alpha-fetoprotein is mainly associated with hepatocellular carcinoma and non-seminomatous germ cell tumors. Carcinoembryonic antigen is most commonly used to monitor colorectal carcinoma after treatment. CA19-9 is associated with pancreatic and biliary tract cancers. CA125 is mainly associated with epithelial ovarian carcinoma. CA15-3 is commonly used in monitoring breast carcinoma. Prostate-specific antigen is associated with prostate carcinoma. Beta-human chorionic gonadotropin is associated with choriocarcinoma and several germ cell tumors. Calcitonin is the principal marker for medullary thyroid carcinoma. Thyroglobulin is used during follow-up of differentiated thyroid carcinoma after treatment. Now consider another examination question. Why are most tumor markers unsuitable for screening the general population? Pause the video and think about your answer before continuing. The main reason is that most tumor markers lack adequate sensitivity and specificity. Many patients with early-stage cancer have normal tumor marker concentrations. This results in false negative results and may provide false reassurance. On the other hand, many benign conditions can also increase these markers, producing false positive results that lead to unnecessary anxiety and further investigations. Another important concept is disease prevalence. In the general population, most cancers are relatively uncommon. As a result, even a positive test is more likely to represent a false positive than a true diagnosis. For these reasons, tumor marker screening is generally reserved for carefully selected high-risk groups, where evidence shows that early detection improves patient outcomes. Finally, let's review several important statistical concepts that frequently appear in examinations. Sensitivity refers to the proportion of people who truly have a disease and are correctly identified by the test. A highly sensitive test produces very few false negative results. Specificity refers to the proportion of healthy individuals who are correctly identified as not having the disease. A highly specific test produces very few false positive results. Positive predictive value refers to the proportion of positive test results that truly represent disease. Unlike sensitivity and specificity, positive predictive value depends greatly on how common the disease is within the population being tested. The final concept is lead time bias. Lead time bias occurs when a disease is diagnosed earlier through screening, making survival appear longer simply because the diagnosis was made sooner, even though the patient's actual lifespan has not changed. To summarize today's lesson, remember these key points. Tumor markers are most valuable for monitoring treatment response and detecting recurrence, rather than for making an initial diagnosis. CA19-9 is most closely associated with pancreatic cancer, but may also increase in obstructive jaundice. Tumor markers should always be interpreted together with clinical findings and imaging studies. Most tumor markers are unsuitable for population screening because of limited sensitivity, limited specificity, and a high rate of false positive results. Finally, understanding sensitivity, specificity, positive predictive value, and lead time bias is essential for interpreting diagnostic tests correctly in both examinations and clinical practice. If you're a medical student, nursing student, or any healthcare student who enjoys learning by practicing questions, be sure to check out StudyWorkspace.online. It lets you turn your own notes, lecture transcripts, past papers, PDF documents, and other study materials into interactive multiple-choice questions in just a few clicks. You can organize your question sets into folders and subfolders, making it easy to keep everything structured and revisit topics whenever you need. It's a simple way to test your understanding, identify weak areas, and make your revision more active. Visit StudyWorkspace.online and start studying smarter today.